everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and today we're doing the fruit tasting as promised in the unboxing video on a couple of the Syzygium fruits. Now these are probably, they should be varieties of Syzygium malacense, which is the Malay rose apple, but they're quite similar looking to Syzygium samaragense as well, which is variously known as the wax apple, wax jambu, but I think this is probably the Malay rose apple, but the names are interchangeable. These are just called rose apple as well, but that's not the same as the Syzygium jambos, which is the plant I've got, which is just known as a rose apple, and the fruits are sort of more of an oval shape, and they're cream, tend to be a cream or yellowish colour, whereas these, although these come in white as well, they tend to be sort of a pink to a reddish colour, and they're normally this sort of colour when they're ripe. So I thought we'd cut them up so you could have a look. Now this smaller one should be the Indian fruit, Indian supplied fruit, which is more than likely a different variety in this one, which is meant to be, this is a Thai growing one, but it will quite likely be a different variety. So I thought we'd cut them open so you can have a look inside. We'll do the I'll do the little Indian one first. Now I have eaten these on numerous occasions before. I don't think they're normally seedless. I mean, once in a blue moon you can get a seed in them, but on the whole they tend to be seedless. Yeah, completely seedless. Now, as I said, they're meant to be ripe when they're this pinkish colour, and they don't actually last particularly long when if they're left outside. They only last for 2 or 3 days, so that you're best to keep them in the fridge. Now the flesh tends to be sort of white to in between white and a sort of greeny colour, as you can see here. We'll see what this one's like. I quite like the fruits. They're quite refreshing, but I find them very they're quite bland. They're very watery and refreshing. They've got almost a sort of almost an unripe apple taste to them, I suppose. And they do have a scent. They do have a bit of a scent to them, which is why they get the name rose apple. The wax apple name, of course, comes from the fact that the skin looks like a sort of a waxy red apple. I've always thought the flesh looked a little bit, I don't know if you can see, but I always think the flesh, they've got a nice crunch to them, but they've got a sort of almost a polystyrene texture to them. Luckily they don't taste like not that I eat polystyrene, but they don't taste like polystyrene. They're quite, I've described them as sort of like crisp and refreshing, but they're not one of those fruits you eat and go, wow, I can't wait to have the next one. They're not really like any other fruits, but they've certainly got this sort of, as I said, this crispy, refreshing wateriness to them in a hot climate. It doesn't really matter over here in the middle of our winter. Oh, that's the Indian one. Let's have a look inside the Thai one now. I would imagine it will look exactly the same and probably taste exactly the same. Most of the variation. They're not a high sweet sugar content fruit. Again, no seeding. Now that might be because they don't get pollinated properly. They're probably one of those fruits that sort of self-fertile and develops without pollination. But again, you can see they've got this sort of whitish to light green look to the inside of the fruit, and the main advantage of this particular Thai one is basically it's large. It's if it's the same taste. Virtually the identical taste to the other one. So they're not flavourful, quite bland, but pleasant. I would say This particular Thai one is a bit sweeter, but I don't think there's anything to really choose. Between them, possibly got a little bit more of a slightly more, if you like, rose flavour to it, possibly. Yeah, I'd say it's got a little bit more flavour to this one than the Indian one. I like them, and they're not particularly expensive considering how far they've got to come, but I don't think it's fruits that are going to take off here because I think it's not cost effective to import it. But anyway, they I said those fruits I bought from myexoticfruit.com. Not sponsored by them or anything. I just people are going to ask me where the fruits have come from, so I thought they may as well tell them. That is the wax apple, rose apple, wax jambu, Malay rose apple. A real expert would be able to look at it and tell you which one of those it actually is. So it is a Syzygium, and it's either Malacanthes or Samarangense. I've actually got the rose apple plant, which I hope one day might flower and fruit for me if I keep my fingers crossed, because I haven't tasted those little cream or yellow oval shaped rose apples, as far as I'm aware they're not available over here at all. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Please give me a thumbs up. Remember to you can share the video if you think anybody might be interested in those unusual fruits. Please subscribe to my channel, of course, and remember to click on the bell if you'd like updates on new videos when they come out. I'll catch up with you on the next video. Brett out for now.